This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network. Presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm Will West. Tyler Ivens here with me. Paige Dauer, Ryan Callahan, all sitting here. Time to talk a little Lady Vols. Paige, we'll start with you on this one. How likely are the Lady Vols to make the Elite Eight this year? 7 straight seasons, Lady Vols haven't gotten past the Sweet 16, but Kim Caldwell's team already has the highest number of conference losses that Kellie Harper ever had in a season with the Lady Vols.
That stat line right there, I just think really is like a pebble in their shoe. They won it in that drought, probably worse than anybody else, at Tennessee. I think this year, you kind of look at the first 2, March Madness, bracketology. I think they could definitely get through the first 2 rounds. It's when they get to that Sweet 16, Elite 8 round, it's going to be really tough matchups. Right now I'm thinking, if they get to the Sweet 16, that might be a UCLA kind of team if they're in that Spokane 1 region. But I do think that the way that this team has been playing this year, how close they've been in these top 10 matchups, they probably have the best chance that they've had in recent years to get back to that Elite 8.
I would agree with that. Best chance they've had in a while, but is it enough for me to say right now they should make the Elite Eight? I'm not ready to go that far because let's face it, in men's basketball, that tournament, there's so much parity. You don't know who you're going to be facing in the Sweet 16. To get there, to get to the Elite Eight in the women's tournament, you're basically talking, can you knock off a 1 or a 2 seed? Mm-hmm. And that's a really tough ask of this team. They've had some close calls in those types of games. They obviously beat Connecticut at home. Can they do it on a neutral court against one of those types of teams, a UCLA type team? I'm not sure they're there just yet. Now, there are a couple things that give them a chance. They shoot threes pretty well, tied for 3rd in the league, I believe, in threes. Anybody, in three-point percentage, I should say, anybody who shoots threes at that high of a clip has a chance to pull an upset. Also, they force turnovers well. Not as well as they did in non-conference play, but still at a high rate. So if you turn some teams over, hit some threes, you got a shot against anybody. That's why I give this team a chance. I'm just not ready to say they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Elite Eight, Ivens, yes or no?
I'm going to preheat what he just laid out there. Can you guarantee me they hit 40% from the field from deep in that Sweet 16 matchup? These tough games that they've lost this year, Texas from the free throw line, Oklahoma from the free throw line, South Carolina, they started hitting threes late in that loss at home. If they were to give me somewhere in the 39 to 41% range, absolutely. But again, in the ladies' game, when you get to the field of 16 that second weekend, you're probably going up against one of those top 4, top 5
Is this team any better, Paige, than Kellie Harper's 4 other teams? Because again, they've lost the same number of SEC teams as Kellie has ever lost during her tenure here.
When I go back to the 2022-23 season, I have it written down in my handy notebook about, how this season maybe compares to that season. That season in 2022-23, they played a number of ranked teams, but the idea around the team was, wow, this is a really tough schedule that they have. This is a gauntlet that they're having to go through. Who scheduled this season for them? Because they were not doing very well. They were not very competitive. And a lot of these ranked matchups, this year it's all about, wow, they're so close. They're losing these by 1 possession, single digits. This team could be a top 10 team.
Just frankly more talented.
Yes,
they have,
as
right?
Similar as these schedules were from now to the other year, the narrative couldn't be any different. And I think because of that, there should be more buzz around this team because of their potential they didn't really see in 2022.
That's a good point because I think the close calls are what make us think this team's capable of more. They're not getting blown out by anybody.
Right.
Their style of play is a great equalizer. Here's the other thing that's going to be working in their favor. These SEC teams have all gotten pretty familiar with them from seeing common opponents play them and things like that. They're learning things about them. Teams that are preparing for them in one weekend or even 5 days, they're not going to be as prepared for the style of play Tennessee throws at them. That's going to be a real challenge for them. I've kind of equated throughout the season this team to Bruce Pearl's first team at Tennessee. I think there's some similarities to that in the sense that this is not the most talented team that Kim Caldwell is going to have at Tennessee, but they throw a style of play out there that's a great equalizer against a lot of teams. I just don't know that this team, like that Bruce Pearl team in 05-06, has the horses to make a run. But if you get the right matchups, they can pull off an upset because they're not getting blown out by anybody.
Tyler, is this team better, really, than Kellie Harper's teams? Because the record's pretty similar.
Time will tell. I'm not ready progress report to say that now. What I will say is the reason why to kind of add from the beginning, take from what you just asked. You on our radio show said from the hire, this is a Sweet 16 team. I'm telling you it is. You've bought in. You've been on the bandwagon from the beginning. When I got sold on this team, she's delivering the child, doesn't make the trip to Texas, but her assistants are still on par. They have Texas A&M deep in the shot clock that entire game. They were running their plan, and they dang near pulled off the upset in Austin. That's why I have confidence this team can go deep into the second weekend. In regards to Kellie, I don't want to be prisoner of the moment because of just how exciting this brand of basketball is.
That's the key. It's more exciting.
That's what it is.
But are they better?
That's the thing. Are we having this conversation? If South Carolina doesn't hit a game-winning 3 in Greenville last year, does Kellie keep her job and knock off Carolina from the perfect season? It's that sliding doors thing. I'm going to say let's pause on that. I don't want to overreact to it. But you asked me this question again post-March, April? I bet I have a different answer.
I would say this. They are not as talented as those Kellie teams, but we knew they weren't going to be as talented as those Kellie teams. But I do think you have a decided schematic advantage. And I agree with you, Ryan. It's going to be very tough when you have 2 days to prepare for this team to be able to play with them. I also wonder, in the same way people talk about Rick Barnes, and that you're trying to win with defense and rebounding and win games in the 60s, Kellie was still trying to win the way Patton won. Right. And the game evolved. And so having a more evolved offensive game plan and defensive game plan, I think, does give you a better opportunity to go further, Paige.
Well, and kind of what you guys are saying about, wearing teams out in the postseason. That's what Coach Yo from Ole Miss just talked about in their last matchup. She says this is going to be a really tough team when you don't have a ton of time to prepare or rest. The way that they operate their press is going to wear you out and wear these teams thin. And I think the way that they substitute, the way that they get up in the press, I think that maybe is kind of the saving grace, or what maybe gives them the edge if they aren't able to convert at like a 30-40% clip from three.
That's Paige Dauer, Full Disclosure Productions, Ryan Callahan, 247 Sports, Tyler Ivens from the Sports Animal. I'm Will West.